There's no preservatives. There's no anything in that. That bread lasts like a day and a half.
That's true. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
The loaf you buy of like Canadian white or whatever, like that's 2 weeks before it turns green. Like that's a very different scenario.
Not once I'm in charge.
Guys, you eat the green. It's cool.
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, a show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23. Don't Trust the Bee went 26 episodes over 2 seasons on ABC. Today we're talking about episode 1, which is called Pilot, originally airing April 11th, 2012. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the boys, Joe, Ferg, Nick, and Gordo. What's going on, guys?
Hey, out.
Hey.
I love you guys, but as a podcast, we are not compatible genitally, which is a problem for me.
I had another one that you were going to go with. I forget what it was now, though.
Was it Jesus is my N-word? Because I was like, I can't say that at the beginning of the episode.
That's going to be a whole conversation later. Hey, just right off the bat, welcome back, everyone. This is episode 201. This episode should have been part of January, but I have an inability to count to 5. So because I told 6 people that they had won, we had a spillover, which would have been fine until I realized that the extra 1 was going to leak into episode 200. So obviously we couldn't do that because we just did The Office last week. So here we are at 201, so just an extended January bonus. This was Christine's pick, so I felt very bad. She's someone who's messaged us so many times over, the last few years and has been an awesome fan of ours. As a matter of fact, when we didn't come in at number 1, she contacted her podcast app's IT support because she thought there was a mistake. I'm so sorry that I'm such an idiot, but we are doing this episode now.
Ride or die, Christine.
Yeah, Christine's awesome.
Yeah, so this is Don't Trust the Bee was her pick. Again, just saying Don't Trust it's Don't Trust
Just
the
say
Bee.
bitch. I mean,
Hey, we can say bitch.
No, it's not that I can't say bitch, it's that it's not technically called bitch. It was originally called Don't Trust the Bitch in Apartment 23 when it was going to be a Fox show, and then they switched it. And then it became ABC picked up the pilot after that, and then they changed the name to just Don't Trust the Bee, and then they switched it again and made it so it's clearly bitch, but it's not. So
it's fine though. B works better because it rhymes with 23.
It does. It has a better rhyme to it. Is Kevin Can Fuck Himself officially called Kevin Can Fuck Himself?
No, it's got the little squiggly instead of fuck, you write F money sign.
it's just it's one of those things. It's like, how would you ever advertise that way, right? So yeah, that's what they want you to think in your head, but they'll never be able to advertise it like that.
So I think something like this, it puts you at a disadvantage, right? You make it difficult to look up your show because you don't know exactly officially what it's called.
It's also this is levels of don't be a menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. Just too long of a TV show or movie title. You know what I mean? When you say it and you're like, that's a fucking long title.
I remember that when this show first came out, that I was like, wow, that's a long title. That is actually something that stood out to me. I've never watched it, but
I have zero recollection of this show. I don't ever remember seeing it advertised. Nothing. This is the first I've heard of it.
I remember it coming out and Van Der Beek being in it, but I did not realize that Van Der Beek was playing a fictionalized version of himself.
Oh yeah, that I had no idea about. The only reason that I really even knew the show existed was because Krysten Ritter, who is the star of the show, was coming straight off of Breaking Bad. In her Breaking Bad, she had a small arc, but it was such a huge thing on the show that her jumping to this afterwards was she was notable because of the timing.
And then she became Jessica Jones.
And what year was this?
This was 2012 when this came out.
Yeah. Jessica Jones, she's great. I love her. She's really good.
Yeah, she's great.
Because I want to say her Breaking Bad must have been the year before the season that she was on, right around there.
I've still never seen any of Breaking Bad.
She did episodes in 2009 to 2010, actually. So,
Yeah, Breaking Bad ended in 13. She was just in something I watched like the other night. Now I can't. Oh, she's in the Sonic movies, which are better than they should be.
We actually talked about this like off air, but I still have to see them.
They're great. I like them all.
I haven't seen those either. Yeah, she's also she's in Gossip Girl, right?
Yes,
Both of the girls are in the show.
And she's a musician too, right? She's in a band, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
is she? That checks.
It's I had it written down actually because I was.
Like an indie rock band of some description, I think.
Yeah, her and the girl who plays June. Is her name Dreama? Dreama Walker?
That's what I read it as. Yeah.
Yeah, I read it as Dreama. Yeah.
So yeah, the two of them both came from Gossip Girl.
Great show.
And Dreama's also in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood too, right? She's like one of the Manson girls. No, she's hanging out with Steve, the dude playing Steve McQueen at the party when they're trying to explain why.
Oh, she's also in Whoopi Goldberg's show, Whoopi.
How have we not covered a Whoopi yet?
Yeah. I think
R.I.P.
you don't know if we know how to breach the subject of our weird brains on that one.
We'll have to do it on the anniversary of her death.
We can't go back in time.
Yeah, we'll save this story for when we cover a Whoopi Goldberg show.
And is this the first time we've ever covered a sitcom that has a cast member from Angus in it? Because if so, I am fucking stoked for that milestone.
I'm gonna have to do a lot of IMDbing, yeah, but it's very possible.
Is it weird that when I think of James Van Der Beek, the first thing I think of is Angus?
Yeah,
He broke his nose, Angus.
I'm still here, Adenoid.
but yeah. So in a couple of quick numbers too, by the way, IMDb has this as a 7.3, but then even better scores when you're looking at Rotten Tomatoes, which has a critic score 85 and an audience score 89.
They just paid their Rotten Tomato bill.
Now, if your audience scores, I trust them.
Yeah, I think that's well loved.
Yeah. Not that. Well, I mean, your audience score could be more easily manipulated than your critic score.
No, absolutely
technically.
could be. But, you know, if like you see some of these shows where there's vast differences, usually when it kind of levels off.
I don't know about you guys. I don't even consider critic scores.
No, me neither.
What is the
I
point?
do, but for very specific critics. Like there are people who review movies who I really appreciate their reviews and trust their.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So like for those people, I will. But like as a whole, yeah.
It depends like what kind of movie or television show you're watching too. Like anytime you're watching something that's like a silly, dumb movie, you know what I mean? Like I don't think that Biodome probably ranks very high with a critic score. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but you don't watch that because you want to watch a film. You know what I mean? You want to watch something stupid.
You fucked the president? Cool.
Side note, was it yesterday when I found out that Stephen Baldwin's daughter is Justin Bieber's wife? I was like, what the fuck? And I know that's probably something that everyone knows, you know, like people who like pop culture shit, but I was shocked.
Family parties must be fucking bananas.
I don't know. Pauly Shore's all boring now. He like refuses to be the weasel.
Well, he's busy trying to get that
He wants to be Richard Simmons.
Richard Simmons movie off the ground, yeah, which he should be. That's fucking perfect. That's
should
great
be.
casting.
Yeah, everyone wanted him to play him but Richard Simmons, and now he's dead.
Yeah, he died, so he no longer has a say.
I think he came around in the end because they put out that short, and I think he saw it.
He wanted like Brad Pitt to play him or something that was like delusional. You know, it was just like something that's like, hey, dude, it's like Richard Simmons, all the credit, R.I.P., you know, amazing career. But look at yourself. Pauly Shore is the guy who's supposed to play you.
Yeah, right.
I think he honestly got like mentally burned so hard by the Eddie Murphy I'm a pony thing from the 90s that he was like, I don't want a comedian to play me.
It's like the fucking Dave Franco and that Luigi Mangione dude. I just saw an article about it the other day. He goes, I have never in my life received more text messages, emails, and phone calls about playing somebody than I have about playing this guy. They do look a lot alike, but
I was gonna say, I wonder if any of those are but he's a good actor. But I wonder if any of those texts are from like a studio and not just his bros.
Right, not just fans.
Yeah.
That's also like no politics here at all about that. That's just also like a tough movie to make. Be like, you can't make a movie like that for like 10 years. You know what I mean?
They've
like,
barely even tried the guy yet. You can't, like, what are you making a movie about?
You can only do that if you're like Lifetime or something, right? Like they'll shoot something out super quick and just be like sensationalist, but you can't make like a real movie with real actors about a real thing that just happened and have it like you need more time passed on that.
Like Lifetime will make a version. It'll be like Mario Macaroni instead. Like,
oh, I'm gonna shoot the CEO. It's like, okay,
well, before we get too into that, because every time
It's
I
a
went to
me,
reply,
my little
I kept
friend.
Going, nope, don't say that. Nope, don't say that. Want to go over a couple of other quick things. If you want to watch Don't Trust the Beat Apartment 23, you could watch that on Amazon Prime. It's available over there. And quickly
good.
from us, www.s1e1pod.com. That's where you can find all the links to all our shit. If you want to buy a shirt, if you want to follow us on social media, all that, go to the .com. To jump right into this episode, it starts with some narration. And living in New York has taught me a lot that life is full of surprises. They can be scary, but if you're open to them, they can also change your life. And when you're hearing that, you see a woman walking into the apartment and there's a guy sitting on the couch when she gets there. And you just hear, Steven, Chloe, I knew this was going to happen. So did I. And then boom, the two just start hooking up. And it's like a montage of this hookup. And it's a lot of tongue, a lot of tongue.
exaggerated tongue, I would call this.
Yeah. Champagne being poured all over the place, butts on cakes. Spanking with roses. It is a pretty extreme hookup situation.
but no cake farts.
No, I knew someone was going to bring up cake farts, so I purposely didn't. I knew someone would say it, so I left it open.
You're welcome.
Yeah. If you're curious, Google it.
Don't be curious. Don't Google that. That's an awful thing to do.
No, Google it.
Google it.
With that in mind, this gets cut off by a blonde girl now who walks in the door and just starts screaming right off the bat, because like the narration, I think, is meant to sound like the narration is of the brunette who we first see walk in, who's Krysten Ritter's character. But come to find out, the narration is through the blonde girl who walks in on this hookup. And she gets in and goes, "What the hell's going on?" And this dude's like, "I can explain." And then that's when the other girl, Chloe, goes, "No, Steven, let me. June, sweetheart, I screwed your fiance on your birthday cake, and now I'm going to be late with my half of the rent." You're like, oh.
I'd be more mad about the rent. I kind of don't care about cake.
Not the cake, but the fact that your fiance is getting fucked on the cake. Not that the cake's ruined, you psycho.
I'm just saying, in this situation, I'm like, rent cake. That's what I think of.
What if you rented a cake?
I mean, I imagine if I rented a cake, I'd be mad if it got ruined, right? Because then I'd owe full cake.
I think the only type of cake you could rent is the big one that you pop out of, because otherwise, how do you give back a cake?
Right, and then unfortunately, if you put Lurch in charge of it, you boil the poor woman and she dies.
That poor girl.
Great callback.
They all cheer after they realize she's dead.
So right off the bat, it's a lot for the first 30 seconds or so of the episode. Early impressions?
One of the weird first impressions I had was, this doesn't make sense to me because that girl's a babe and this dude's a dweeb. So something's off here.
Agreed. And then
Yep.
they kind of double down on that later, but we'll get into it.
I mean, dweebs are cool now.
As 5 dweebs on this call right now, incorrect assessment.
Yeah,
of
but we're
how-
we're 5 old dweebs.
Oh, that's true. We're old,
Different.
nerdy dweebs. Oh, God, we're so old.
Watching this first like minute or so of the show really like establishes the tone of what kind of show this is, for sure. Because I certainly, going into it, I mean, even with the name being kind of something a little left of center, didn't know what kind of show this really was.
Because at this point, it doesn't feel sitcom-y, right?
I don't
It
think
does.
the whole episode feels sitcom-y, but that's just me.
And I don't think it's I don't think it's about like the way it plays. I think it's more like the way it looks. I think it's like it's got a really good look to it. That's not sitcom-y. You know, like it's very. What's the word I'm looking for?
Cinematic?
Cinematic. Yeah, thank you. It's very cinematic.
It's definitely shot like a movie.
To me, like my brain forever is like a multicam as a sitcom. Now that's not necessarily exclusive, but anytime I see a single cam shot show, it just doesn't register in my brain the same as like,
Right.
This doesn't feel quite sitcom-y.
I will say, though, coming into it with the title and being like, oh, 21 minutes, like this is going to be like a breeze. I'm going to do a couple pages of notes. I was not expecting there to be so much meat on the bone of this episode.
Yeah, it's like a fairly simple story, but there's a lot inside of it. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of cuts. This is definitely like a show that does a lot of cutaways, like flashback, flash forward, flashback, flash forward.
I definitely wasn't like, there will be a neighbor jerking off in this episode. Like I didn't predict that. You know what I mean?
Well, we'll be there in a minute. But yeah, this is, I would say though that this first minute or so of the episode is unlocking the plausibility of things like that to come. You're seeing a lot early on, you know what I mean? So I think that opened my eyes to this isn't the kind of show that I thought it was going to be.
Do you think Don't Trust the Bee was going to be a deep show?
Not deep, but I don't know. I thought maybe demographically, like it felt like it was going to be almost like New Girly to me, like in my brain, what I thought I was going to walk into.
I thought the same.
I thought this was a British show at first.
You thought the blanked out letters was going to spell out Brit?
Don't trust the British.
Yeah. So anyways, from there we go back to narration and we hear, that's right, my roommate slept with my fiance on my birthday cake and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And that's when we switch to the intro. And the intro it's very short. The jingle of the song is, I'm not perfect, not a snitch, but I can tell you she's a bit, and you know, it kind of silences off.
They show the name cards that you have on your buzzer on an apartment building.
Yeah, which I think aesthetically I thought that was a pretty good look. So, you know, like I said, quick jingle. I didn't sing it, but because I can't remember the exact melody, but it was like kind of like has that quick classic sound to it. It was fine. It was very quick. So I thought it was good.
If we talked on here about when I bought my wife the buzzer card for the cheating girlfriend on Goodfellas.
I feel like you've brought that up before. I can't remember if it was on here or just in life.
I just now have a giant, there's a whore in your building buzzer card that will never go anywhere.
Next scene, now we see June. June, of course, it's June's the blonde girl who walked in, and we see her now walking into an empty, like this beautiful apartment overlooking New York City. It took a while for it to be established. Like you had to get out of this scene for it really, but or it comes up a little bit later as dialogue goes on. But the first scene we saw,
this is a flashback.
Yeah. Well, it's the whole thing's a flashback basically because the opening scene is the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And then every flashback is a flashback within a flashback.
Right. Yeah. So we're flashing back the whole thing. So I think you get a little bit with dialogue in the scene, but you know, at first I was a little thrown off. I thought she saw that happen and now she's moving into a new place. So she walks into this place, beautiful apartment. She's like, I have to, you know, show this to my parents. They're not going to believe it. And then you cut to like her parents, but this was like a weird aesthetic thing. They made it look like it was coming through a computer almost as if it was like a Zoom, but it looked like it was only being played on like a video player. Like they didn't do enough work to make it look like it was a video call or something.
It's on like a real skin or something from back then.
It just looked like they opened like if the parents sent them a movie and she clicked the file and opened it.
Like a quick time video.
I thought it was funny though when you see like the parents and the mom's yelling like on it. I heard that bread there's $4 a loaf. Do not buy bread. I will send you bread.
I will say to this though, I did the inflation calculation on this. A $4 loaf of bread is $5.50 now, right? And like that's what a loaf of bread kind of costs. I mean, like a gluten-free bread that I have to buy is like $7 a loaf. Like that's not that crazy.
No, I mean you could still go and get like store brand sandwich bread for like $1 and change.
No way. Wonder Bread's got to be at least $4 now.
No, it's really not that expensive. You can get a bag, like a loaf of like Canadian white for like $1.79.
What? Fuck you guys. Fuck you and your bread. Eat my
It's funny,
dick.
as you were saying it, I was like, oh, poor guy doesn't even realize how much more he spends for bread. I almost didn't want to tell you.
$7 a loaf of bread.
We're just throwing bread into the sky. We're like, fuck this. It's so cheap.
I am the bread baron.
Must be nice. This is also why a pizza for me costs like $47.
You know what's funny though? With that in mind, even though for us normal folk, bread's still fairly cheap.
Actually, I'm looking up that Canadian white that I'm talking about. It's actually $4.50.
Boom! Well, if you're ordering it on like to have delivered to your house on an inflated like Instacart.
Yeah, I'm looking on Stop and Shop, but I know there's definitely, you know,
there's cheap bread options, but I can be down to like my last 4 slices of bread if it starts to go bad before I finish it. Even if it was like a minuscule amount, I get so fucking mad. You would have thought I set a $20 bill on fire.
You can eat a whole loaf of bread before a loaf of bread goes bad?
I've never made it halfway through one.
Me neither. I love bread.
Yeah, we's easier than I.
Yeah,
but, like,
we and I is different.
Well, you got to up your sandwich game.
Well, that's the thing. I feel like I'll go through a run where like I won't have a loaf of bread in my house for weeks on end. And then I get in a sandwich kick. And then it's just like I'm eating like 2 sandwiches a day until the bread's gone. Cause like you just get into a kick.
A sandwich kick can be easily kicked off though by just eating a single sandwich, and then you just want sandwiches every day.
You know what the funny part is too is like making a loaf of bread is exceptionally easy. Like you'll figure it out
Yes.
like through trial and error after 2 times. And it would take you 10 minutes. It would take you as long to go to the supermarket, go buy bread, and come back home. And you could just fucking make this dough and throw it in the oven and have a perfectly fine loaf of bread. We just refuse to do it.
Difference here, though, Nick, what you're not thinking of, because we bake a lot of bread here, too, is that there's no preservatives. There's no anything in that. That bread lasts like a day and a half.
That's true. Yeah.
The loaf you buy of like Canadian white or whatever, like that's 2 weeks before it turns green. Like that's a very different scenario.
Not once I'm in charge.
Guys, you eat the green. It's cool. I like how we don't talk about politics, but everyone's just like, oh, fuck RK, though. Everybody unites on like, that guy's a fucking asshole. How did that guy marry Cheryl from Curb? What is happening in this world?
Oh, that caught me off.
Wait, that's who his wife is?
Yes.
No shit.
When he was first going, I don't want to get too political. Yeah, once he like first was like running for president, like he was doing like all the like comedy podcasts because like she's in with all like the before like the the Rogans and stuff were doing like actual bigger politics. Like he was on Bad Friends, So
well, right now as we do this, he's talking right now, and like he was doing a confirmation hearing, and they like pulled up a picture of like a baby onesie that was like, I don't have a vaccine, and they cut to Cheryl in the crowd, and your brain immediately just goes bum 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 bum. Like you can't not do it. It's so fucking funny. Like I don't even care what his politics are. I just wanted to keep being on TV so I can have these moments.
To get out of this, I don't want to. I feel like, well, let's keep that one short and sweet. After we see the thing from the parents, you cut back and she's talking to it like it's not even like the person showing her. It's like the door guy to the apartment. She's not looking for a new apartment.
Right, yeah.
This poor fella who's
this is when
working
we
some
realize.
shit job.
Yeah, this is when we realize this is like a cut scene, or this is the like a different starting point now. He's saying, I can't wait to show this to Steven. He's my fiance. He's getting his master's degree in behavioral psychology. And then you see him now like video chatting. And it's weird. Like every time he's video chatting, it's like he almost comes off, it's like a Bunsen and Beaker thing. Like this kid is like he uses for experiments all the time.
I will say I feel like he used his kid for experiments all the time, and I will talk about that later.
Yeah.
Oh, he's like studying some condition that the kid has. Like he's watching him 24/7.
Is that what it is? I can't tell. It always looks like they're running tests on him.
If they did explain it, I missed it.
Because even when he walks in the building with him, he's like, mark that down. That's a reaction.
That's a breakthrough or whatever.
A breakthrough, yeah.
I have thoughts.
It cuts back again, and she's talking to this door guy, and I know you're thinking, how did I get here? And she's talking about this mortgage company that she works for, and they paid to relocate her, and they gave her this beautiful company apartment, and she's like, can you believe it? I'm turning 26 next week, and my life plan is right on schedule. And then from there, you see her about to enter work for the first time, and she's got like her little orchid in hand, and she's about to open the door to her office now, where she's been relocated. Do they tell us where she was originally from?
They do, Indiana.
Indiana? Okay, so she goes from Indiana to New York City.
Oh, I wonder if she knows the hex.
Oh.
I don't know if this is like a reference or I'm just crazy and I watch my YouTube channel, but like it's like Buchwald insurance. And I immediately was like, oh, Buchenwald, like one of the first and biggest concentration camps in World War II. Like, I don't know if that's a reference to be like, this is a terrible place. Like they were trying to like make that seed, or if they just picked a random name and like, that's just like that was too close to something worse.
I don't know. I mean, they said Buchwald, right? Is how they pronounced it.
Well, that's how you'd pronounce it after you went from Argentina to America and changed the way you pronounce your name, possibly.
Well, yeah, sure. I would venture to guess maybe not. You never know, though. Could have been a sneaky, smart writer.
This is where we get a weird writer being like, you finally cracked the code. Messages us.
Finally, someone gets my art.
I've been unemployed since the show came out.
So this girl's walking into her office for the first time with her orchid in hand. opens the door, and it is fucking chaos as soon as the door opens.
It is literally the scene in Wayne's World 1 where he's like, I just always wanted to open a door and see real trained for an action movie. You literally hear a car crash inside this office. The fucking thing made me laugh the most.
Was there a dude
the whole
holding
episode.
a Molotov cocktail? Was that the fire? Someone had fire in their hand.
No, somebody's running by. He just has a office like file folder on fire for no reason. Why is it on fire?
Yeah, they're destroying company records, I assumed.
It must be, yeah. Because the FBI, we find out, is there.
Yeah, she's like, what's going on? This one of her, co-workers, I guess, Mark, who's played by Eric Andre, is like, we've been shut down. The government froze all our assets. I guess Mr. Buckwald's been embezzling investors out of billions of dollars, and there's police looking for him right now. And it like pans up, and you just see like a bunch of police like holding some dude up against a window, basically. Like, where is he?
Also, Eric Andre is one of those people who just like, he can just smile and I will laugh. I love that dude so
really?
much.
I'm the opposite. I hate him.
Oh, really? I think Eric Andre is funny.
I don't like his sense of humor that, oh, it's so random. Look at it, like screaming noise type of thing.
He has a very extreme, like when he's left to his own devices. I think he's very funny in a lot of things. Like even here, like I think like acting and like this, he is like great in this show.
I don't mind him like stuff like that, like acting roles. I think he's fine.
I'm with Ferg. I think like the Eric Andre show, like there's plenty of things on like the Eric Andre show that I think are hysterical, right? But like I don't think I could like sit down and like binge that show.
It's wild.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
it is wild. I've done it and I enjoyed all of it. I still think him with the composite sketch.
Where he's got the wig on.
That's one of the funniest fucking moments of like human reaction ever recorded. Also, he was great in Man Seeking Woman, which we covered, really early on.
And he's on Two Broke Girls that we're going to cover eventually.
Yeah.
Episode 300, baby.
Oh, gross.
Can we make it 500?
We see just, again, it's fucking, everything's going ballistic in here. People are basically just looting the office building because they know everything's getting, like all the assets are frozen now. So they're just like, grab what you can. Like our jobs are gone, essentially.
I like how someone's pulling like a copier, and Eric Andre's like, "What are you going to do with that?"
What are you doing, Rhonda?
Yeah. That's my dream, though. I look on the Facebook free and the Craigslist free all the time. I want an industrial copier so fucking badly. They cost like $4,000.
They
I
are very
want one
expensive.
so fucking bad.
I don't know if it's just like what television's taught me, but I just feel like they will break constantly, and it will be impossible to fix when it does.
No, if you know how to use them, and you know what you're doing, and you're not being crazy with them, like you don't need to collate anything. If you want to just like make photocopies and like mess around with stuff, like it's an easy process. You just fill the cartridge and you're good.
It's a lot of real estate for your house. Like
that's why my wife keeps telling me no, and she eventually said I can put it in the garage. Which
Joe would end
we'll
up
see.
getting pinned in a stairway like Dwight and mine.
Go for the eyes.
Yeah.
We had a Christmas party at my house this year. Jay, thank you for gracing us with your presence. I spent like, 2 hours at the Staples in my town making a flyer for it for like no reason at all, because I just love copy machine art so much. I just want to be able to do that in my house, and it's not economical.
Now, I don't know all the inner workings of copy machine art, but couldn't you have made everything you needed and just then brought it to Staples and photocopied the final thing that you put together?
No, because you have to make photocopies of things and resize them and change the saturation of them so that they're right. Right? You can't just take something and then put it on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. You have to change the size of it. You end up going through like 100 pieces of paper to make one piece of art.
So you are essentially doing arts and crafts inside of a Staples.
Yes.
Meanwhile, there's one woman right behind him who needs a photocopy of her birth certificate who wants to fucking murder him.
Oh yeah, people are not stoked. I come in, I'm a fucking psycho. I come in with a box, I bring my own scissors, my own glue stick. I have everything I need, like different pieces of art. I'm going to photocopy everything. I like set up fucking shop because you don't want to be bothered by like, can I borrow your scissors for 2 seconds to the guys? They don't want to hear that. So you just do everything together. You put your credit card in there. You let it ride for like the 2 hours. You just make everything you need. You make your final, and then you go up and you get it printed on like colored paper, which is usually do. Which is why I like the UPS store better, because you can go to them and say, can I have 50 pieces of red paper? And they're like, okay. But Staples, they make you work for it.
Why don't you buy one and be cut and just put it in as a business expense from your work?
I don't think I could pull that off. I don't think they're going to understand why I need a $4,000 stapler.
Just tell them it's for woof.
Nick, you have a woof on line 1?
So now that she's realizing that her workday is probably not going to be going as planned, she takes a cab back to her apartment, and it looks like a crime scene. Why? Because it's a company apartment, so all the assets were frozen. So now she's not allowed into her own apartment.
That's such a huge fucking bummer. Also, don't move to New York.
How would this work realistically? I mean, I get how they tie it in together. Like, story-wise, it makes sense, but like, they can't kick you out that quick, right? If you're not,
No, they can. It becomes government
If it's
property.
seized,
You can't-
really.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know how that would work in real life.
There's got to be
but-
some sort of like, you know how like there's like renters'
It
rights
could
and
be
stuff
evidence.
like that.
Anything in there could be evidence. So you, once
a
they
crime
take it,
scene.
you can't go in.
So you're just homeless? Like,
Yeah.
they can
Yeah.
put you out.
Yeah, exactly. That's why she's outside with all her stuff, because like that's it.
Well, I figured there was a little bit of sitcom freedom there that way they can write around it that way. But
Again, like Nick said, think of it as a crime scene. You can't go into a crime scene and be like, but I left my phone. The cops are going to be like, your phone could have evidence on it. You can't come in here. You can't have that. So
Yeah, government tends to not like you around crime scenes.
Honestly, good, because that apartment was nicer than my house, and she's 26, so fuck her.
there's definitely the scene where she says, I'm 26 and all my like opening was almost going to be, I'm 39 and none of my dreams are coming
and then
true.
it's funny, like she's done nothing wrong, but now you can't help but root for her to fail. She's like, fuck you, living your dreams.
I was trying to think of like where I was at 26.
So yeah, so she's talking to the cops. She's finding out she can't get in. While this happens, the moving truck pulls up. The moving truck is like, hey, where do you want all your crap? And then it just cuts to her now outside of a coffee shop with all her belongings, almost set up like a little shanty town in front of the coffee shop.
I just said it's kind of cozy.
Yeah, it looks nice. You're using up a bit of the storefront, though. The employee from the coffee shop walks out, who happens to be Mark, the guy from The Office she was just talking to, Eric Andre's character. And it's like, hey, excuse me, you can't live here? It's like, I ordered a small coffee, and they said if I sit here and I ordered a coffee, I can stay.
I do love this too, though, because he's like, there can't be a gap in your resume. It's like, it's been 4 hours. Like, that's such a mentality of like, you can't let people think that you were weak. You were working. You were never stopping.
I remember when I worked at my last job, there was a point where I had found out that they were going to lay off X amount of people by the following week. And that day, before they laid anyone off, I started applying to jobs like crazy. By the next day, they actually officially told people who was getting laid off. I had made the cut, and I'm getting all these calls for interviews and stuff. Like, I'm like, oh, no, thanks. Turns out I have a job still, but I don't know. I don't want to rely on not knowing and doing all the. Well, I didn't collect any unemployment until the pandy, and then getting paid now works awesome. What was I thinking as a kid?
Yeah.
Not wanting a gap in my employment.
I've only collected unemployment once, and when I did, I went on tour, and it was the best thing ever. It was like, I'm in Memphis. There's like $200 in your bank account. I'll be like, woohoo, we're buying beer.
A lot of beer in Memphis for $200.
Yes, you can. Also, a lot of cockroaches.
How much are cockroaches?
They were free, but they
Oh.
came with every beer, which was kind of the trade-off.
They don't come with Jerry the King Lawler.
No, but I did eat nachos in Jerry the King Lawler's restaurant.
I didn't know he had a restaurant.
He does. It's on Beale Street. I think it's Beale Street. It's called. Memphis is funny. There's one street. It's like a block where it's one narrow street. It's nothing but restaurants, bars, and tourist shops. And there's cops at either end. And you can't like leave that street if you're in there. But if you're in there, it's lawless. So you can like drink openly. You can like go into stores with beer, you all this stuff. But if you like get even close to the end of the street, they're like, back the fuck up. You're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's so weird.
With everything going on, she's realizing she needs to not have a gap in her employment or whatever, but is also needs a place to stay first and foremost. So starts like searching for people who are in need of a roommate. And with there, we get like a little bit of a montage of her meeting different people.
This is literally just the I am job scene from Mrs. Doubtfire.
I watched that yesterday. By
It's
the
a
way,
great movie.
I haven't watched it since he died. I can't.
I watched it not too long ago, actually. I think it was on Pluto.
when he first died, I remember being at work and Hook was on, and I couldn't watch it. I had to like walk out of the room. It was too close.
Hook and Good Will Hunting were both tough.
Those are
I
tough
can enjoy
ones.
them now. Now it's a lot of times passed. It's been like a decade, crazy enough.
You do
but-
think you don't forget about it though, like because
No,
like
no.
you can watch it, but then you see him and you're like, "Fuck!" Like, damn it.
she's going through all these different people, and it's not like every situation doesn't seem great, right? Everyone that she's going to is odd, and there's all these issues until she finally meets Chloe, who's Krysten Ritter's character, and she's so bubbly and happy, and she's like, oh, my last roommate of 4 years just moved out to get married, and we were more like sisters. And she's just talking about all these, positive things, and such an uplifting, difference from the other people she was talking to. And she's falling in love with the place. She notices a picture of James Van Der Beek. She goes, is that Dawson? She's like, oh yeah, James Van Der Beek, Beek from the Creek, which I've never heard before.
I love that she never doesn't call him Dawson.
It's we're gonna get like that he's gonna be Dawson though. He is James Van Der Beek. He's not.
Yeah. Well, she's like, oh, we dated for a while, and then we decided we were just better off as friends. And that's when, as you mentioned at the top of the episode, she says, we weren't really compatible genitally. And she goes, imagine trying to fit a cucumber into a coin purse. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
A problem we've all had before, something we can all relate to.
Good for you, Dawson.
James Van Der Beek's like, I'll do this and play myself, but you have to say I have a giant cock.
Yeah.
I call it Angus. Like, all right, man, sure. It killed George C. Scott, I think. Cool.
So yeah, she now describes him as his straight gay BFF. So June is now like all on board. She's like, this girl's awesome. I want to live here. She's friends with James Van Der Beek. This apartment's nice. And she's like, oh, I'd love to live here. And she's like, yep, well, first, last, and security to move in. Like, all right. She's like, that's everything in my life savings, but yeah, no, let's do it. And she's like, okay. June's super excited. She found an apartment. As she's leaving, she's like waiting for the elevator. And then the door opens from down the hall, and it's this girl, and she's like, hey, come here. And she walks over. She goes, don't trust the bitch in apartment 23, and like slams the door on her. And she's like, excuse me? She's like, you said something really disturbing, then slammed the door. Hello?
Very slow elevator also.
So I'll say the way they've cut the episode, we know that Chloe obviously is not the best of people, because we've already seen her fucking her fiance on her birthday cake. So you go, okay, yeah, there's obviously something wrong here. She was acting and not being herself when she's explaining the apartment and all this. And now we know that she's done something apparently terrible to this girl who lives down the street.
I always prefer that they didn't have that opening scene so you'd get surprised when she's an awful person later.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing. I wondered about halfway through this. I'm like, was that necessary? But I think it was. I
don't want to get too ahead of it, because when it does come back, I want to talk about it, but we'll get there. We'll get there. But I did, my brain did shift on the matter when it completely unfolded. Next scene, we see June. She's leaving a voicemail to her boyfriend while she's like getting settled in the apartment. And you can see she's like writing her name on her groceries and like putting everything in the fridge. And then as she's doing that and getting off the phone, the camera pans and we see a dude from the next building. It's like her kitchen and the neighbor's kitchen like line up. The windows are like exactly in the same spot, and the two buildings are all of 2 feet apart. So it basically looks like he's in the apartment every time they show him.
You could easily climb from apartment to apartment without fear of falling.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm Eli. I'm in the building next door. And then she introduces herself. And then he's like, you must be pretty hot from carrying all those boxes, huh? Pretty sweaty. It's like, yeah, I am. I'm a little sore. He's like, yeah, sore. And then like, you realize that this dude's beating off while he's talking to her.
Hey, buddy, my suggestion to you, iced coffee. That seems like a very dangerous scenario with a cup of hot coffee.
Oh, yes, he is doing that with a cup of hot coffee in his non-dick hand. And as a result, he's spilling coffee all over himself.
I have a lot of suggestions for this character, but I guess the easiest one would be iced coffee. Iced coffee.
He's got some milk he can put in there.
Oh, there it is.
Hey, you got him going. That's your fault. That's on you.
I'm sorry.
Google Boys Unite. Been a while.
I don't want in on this one. Yeah, you two get out of that.
Cum laude? I don't know. Where did they go to college? He graduated cum laude.
Hey, when you guys go to Dunkin' Donuts, you guys get a coffee cum laude?
You just said the same joke he said a second ago.
It's not your
Literally,
fault, man.
just now.
It's not your fault.
As expected, June is a little distraught by watching this, and she's like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, stop, I'm going to call the police. As she's saying this, Chloe walks up totally naked. They just optically for us watching the show, they just have, her bits blurred out. And she's like, what's up? And it's like, what do you, I can see your no-nos. June's a very innocent person.
I don't know how you guys take notes for episodes, but I will like pause and write stuff down and replay. And at this scene, I'm pausing and I'm writing notes down, and I look up and I'm on my work computer, and there is just this naked girl eating yogurt. And I'm like, it'd be so hard to explain what's happening here right now without getting into trouble. Like, I felt so awkward.
Yes, by the way, yes, she's eating the yogurt that June just wrote her name on and put in the fridge.
Also, do you guys like yogurt?
I have to be in a mood.
Depends on what kind.
It's another thing that like I just get into like a kick where I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I like yogurt. And then I'll buy enough yogurt to last a month. And then after a few days, I'm like, I'm over it. And then I just have all these yogurts that'll eventually go bad.
I think outside of cheese, I just don't want dairy anymore.
I like a parfait. Like I'll put like granola, some peanut butter, a banana, like make a whole thing of it. But like yogurt on its own is kind of boring.
My wife gets a lot of yogurt. My wife likes that in the morning. I'm more of an oatmeal man.
When I'm trying to like be like more calorie like aware, sometimes like just like a Greek yogurt's like a good way to get like some protein in and keep the calories down. But
Does frozen yogurt count? I like that.
Froyo.
Sure, I mean it. Yeah.
Then I love yogurt.
Remember just like that era where like it's actually right around when this came out, when just frozen yogurt was taking the country by storm.
Yeah, we would watch football on Sundays at a buddy's house, and like in the break between like the 1 o'clock and the 4 o'clock games, we would all go out and get froyo.
It was like the shortest trend ever, though.
It was because it's not, because you know why? Because you have froyo 3 times, and you're like, okay, I get it. Like I don't need
Like
this
yeah,
every
it's good.
week.
Like ice cream's good too, but like yeah, the amount of frozen yogurt places that popped open within a couple years. It's just not sustainable to have that many spots.
Also, too, we live in Massachusetts. Not really a year-round froyo place.
Well, no, because there is like year-round ice cream around here, but like I think that's kind of one of the main contributors. Is like people at first like kind of assume that frozen yogurt was like better for you, and it's not. It's like it's there in some instances it's worse than ice cream.
There's literally a whole Seinfeld episode about this.
Yeah, and it's just like I would rather eat ice cream. Like if you're gonna try to trick me into thinking that it just because it's yogurt it's better, it's not as good as ice cream at the end of the day. So if it's
what
both
got
bad,
people was it was the toppings bars that made everyone like.
Yeah, I mean those are all at ice cream shops too, though.
At this point in time, I lived and worked very close to where Harvard University is, which is like a hip-ish area, I guess, of town.
We know Harvard University, Joe.
Yeah, it's for people who aren't the 5 of us on this call right now. It's for the people listening, which is very hip-ish.
I thought you were trying to describe Harvard University.
No, I was just saying that part of town.
For those
in
of you
Boston,
who don't know, Harvard is a university. Yeah, it's pretty
also,
nice
it's not like
school.
I was like, I went to Harvard. It's like I worked near Harvard. I worked near rich people. But everything that was like a bagel breakfast place at that point turned into a froyo place, and then a year later turned into a like pressed juice place. Like you could see the trends sort of coming.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So the froyo thing went very quickly. I will say though, the pressed juices, though expensive, were very good.
Yes, but emphasis on though expensive.
It's like, oh, this $9 apple juice makes me feel good. Do you know how I learned about COVID? One of those juice places.
They gave you COVID?
My wife was sick, with which we think was COVID, very early on in March of 2020, which I then got. And I was in this juice place getting her juice, being a good husband. I was like, I don't think she's not feeling well. I'm going to buy her all these like expensive juices. And the dude behind the counter was like, I don't know what's going on, man. All these people are like flying in and everyone comes to Harvard and like people keep coughing. And I was like, that's weird. And like a month later, I was like, the guy at the juice place told me about COVID ahead of COVID. How weird is that?
Joe was like, I'll have the bat nana strawberry. Like, oh, we don't do bat right now. We were.
It's like, what kind of animals are you liquidizing so I can have some juice here? Give me one of those.
So anyways, yeah, so Chloe's eating the yogurt that June has. She's sitting there. She's very nonchalantly just hanging out in this kitchen naked now. June's like, hey, there's a pervert across the way. She's like, oh yeah, hey Eli, hey Chloe, and you know that guy? Oh yeah, we're old friends. He shut down the underground sushi restaurant I was working at. Apparently, this pervert's a health inspector.
I'm not trying to throw shade on food I can't eat just because I can't eat it, but the idea of a like underground sushi restaurant that has to get shut down by the health inspector. Sushi feels like the kind of thing that has like a very short lifespan. That feels very scary and gross to me.
Sushi, you have to go to the right place.
I wish they elaborated why she wanted it closed down if she was working there, because it's like,
I don't think she wanted it closed down. I think it just got closed down.
This is how they know one another.
oh, I assumed it was a scam because that's her thing.
June's telling Chloe, hey, by the way, I had a weird exchange with a woman down the hall. She sort of warned me to not trust you. She's like, oh yeah, that's Robin. She's in love with me. A few years ago, we were shooting a rap music video, and she was just like a PA while I was getting champagne sprayed on my ass. And they cut to the music video like being recorded, and you see her like dressed up and everything that's being explained, and you see the girl from down the way as the PA. Which did make me question like their relationship. I was like, well, this checks out.
Yeah, like it tracks. You're like, okay, that's what she was doing.
Yeah, that was they do know each other from something like not tragic, you know?
Now, I don't want to talk about how the sausage is made here, but you imagine in a situation like that, you're just putting like soda water into an empty champagne bottle, right?
What, for the optics in like on television to do the same thing? Probably.
Well, I mean, in general, if you're doing it for like a music video, like your butt would be so sticky if it were just... Champagne's sticky. Champagne's gross. Like, I don't like champagne. I don't get people into champagne.
Soda water can be sticky too.
None of it. No, soda water that's just soda water is just water. It just has air bubbles in it.
Half of those videos that you see like people like spraying champagne, there's usually a pool in it too. You know, like not this one in particular, but a lot of them. So just jump in the pool, get a little of that sticky off after.
I mean, I imagine it depends on how much you would want to flaunt wealth. If you really want to, if you're really, I guess, baller, as the kids say, spray champagne, real champagne.
Well, no one's going to know if it's real or not in the video. You could just have real champagne bottles that you drank at a prior time.
I will say, though, 1,000% would rather have one of you spray me with champagne than make me drink champagne.
Remember when Cristal was like the thing in every music video?
Yeah.
What a dumb thing. It's not like I've had expensive champagne and I've had really cheap champagne. And honestly, like maybe I'm a heathen, but I've just been like, this tastes the same.
I was going to say, it's not my thing, so it's tough.
Give me a nice bottle of Andre. I'm fine.
Right, yeah. Give me some orange Andre and Nick. What did we used to drink them out of in your basement? The
Cold Duck.
No, the boxes?
No, it was the soup cups that were from the...
Oh, yeah. The styrofoam.
One time we bought a bunch of bottles of Andre... when we were super young, and we didn't have any glasses to drink out of them, but we had a bunch of the like school cafeteria soup styrofoam cups, and we were like, well, these will do. And we all had them out. We were like, we're drinking $2 champagne out of styrofoam middle school.
I was gonna say, I would say every time I ever drank a bottle of Andre, it never made it to a cup. It was me drinking out of the bottle.
Same. I used to drink the strawberry Andre, and I'd buy a couple of them. That was such a stupid way to drink.
To go back into this music video cuts, we get the cut back and forth. When we get back to modern day, June goes, oh, I wrote a rap at Christian camp once. It was called Jesus Is My N-Word. Now, I
like
do want to talk about this. It is a real song. I deep dive this. As it turns out, so this was posted by the guy who's like, hey, I helped make this for my church. I figured I uploaded, the guy put it on YouTube, gets millions of views. People started doing some homework on it. And eventually comes out that video was made comically. It was not actually made by the church. The church. Yeah. So, and.
Oh, wait, the church was a bummer? Weird.
Well, no, it's not the church is a bummer. This whole video that was made to look like tone deaf old white people singing Jesus Is My N-Word and not saying N-word in the video.
Oh, geez, they said the word?
I'll send it to you.
They said it no hard R, but still.
The son of the original G.
Yes.
It's called Rapping for Jesus. You can find it on YouTube. And it says that it was like the West Dubuque Second Church of Christ. You look up that church. Turns out that church closed down in 2004. And then the internet, does their thing. They realize that the guy uploaded the YouTube video and then created like the other account on the same day, and like all these things like linked up, and eventually found out that the video was created to look like it was made by this
Yeah,
chick.
it's not real.
But what I thought was interesting was, so this happens in 2013, which is the year later. So did this guy get the idea to make the song from this?
I feel like it must have been, right?
I assume so. It was
Too similar of a title.
This is a big show.
It doesn't even have to be a huge show. Like, you could pull inspiration from anything. Like, this could have been like a super niche show, and then if still,
Right, yeah, it could be anything that inspires art.
I mean, she
guess. I don't
says
call
she
that
wrote a
art,
song
but
called "Jesus Is My N-Word," and then like that's essentially what that song is.
I don't like this joke being a call to arms to some fucking psycho, though. That's a terrible thing to do.
But yeah, no, I was a little bummed when I saw that that video.
It's not real.
Yeah, I'm so disappointed.
My wife told me that a year or so ago.
Yeah,
It broke my heart because it's so well done.
it was like, was it Jimmy Kimmel who wanted to see if he could make a video go viral? So when twerking was a thing, the video of the girl twerking like on her door, and then someone opening it and her falling onto the coffee table and setting it on fire.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
That went super viral, and then like months later he released the full video with him in it because
And it's him laughing because he can't not stop laughing when he does his own sketches.
that's Jimmy Fallon.
Fallon, yeah.
Oh, you said Jimmy Kimmel. I'm sorry.
Jimmy Kimmel, yeah.
I'll take Fallon over Kimmel.
I knew you would. Next scene, June walks into the living room later in the night, and Chloe has two business like dudes, or they're in suits, and she's fooling around with one of them. And she was like, "What's going on?" She's like, "Oh, hey, roomie, just in time for a little four-way action. Take off your pants." I gave assurances. The guy in the window's there watching along, by the way.
This is like his dream day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
June's like, one, I'm engaged. Two, I have job interviews tomorrow. So just keep it down. And she like goes into a room, shuts the door. And she's like, oh, come on. And then as soon as the door shuts, like Chloe like drops the act. And she's like, oh, all right, guys, get off me. Like, so now this, I think, is the first time where you're seeing that Chloe's over the top behavior is somewhat performative to deliberately get under June's skin. We don't know why.
This is like the
Yeah.
second I figured out her scheme.
Yeah, there's more to it than she's just like a lunatic.
But that was a real gamble. What if she came in and she was like, all right, let's do this then?
I also feel like with this character, though, she'd have been like, well, fuck it, let's go. Because she does.
You know what? I live in New York now.
When in Rome.
So now we know that there's something else going on. So she like brushes these guys off, tells them to go to bed. I think they just now are sleeping over though.
I wouldn't call it sleeping.
Yeah. She sits on the couch and then she calls up her buddy, James Van Der Beek, who
Yay!
plays himself in the show.
I love it.
She's like, hey, Tiger Beat. And he goes, hey, Hornado.
I love Tornado. That was a good one.
Tornado's great, yeah.
So they're talking, and she's like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm just reading some script, something Judd Apatow wants me to do. In the background, you're, I don't want to wait. She's like, do you have someone over again? You see like a girl walking down the stairs, like holding like a flannel shirt. Like, is she trying to get you to wear flannel? Like, we're negotiating.
God, I love the Dawson.
I do like this fictionalized version of James Van Der Beek because it's like, it's exaggerated a little while, but I think it's like a nice line. Like, it's not as crazy as Neil Patrick Harris and Harold and
Yeah.
Kumar. You know what I mean? It's still like a believable version of him.
Yeah, he's still a good dude.
Yeah.
I do love the surprise of this too, though, because like I remember when this show came out and I was just like, he's in this. And you were like, because I think the ads I remember seeing were like people in windows. Like, it was like an apartment building, you see people in windows, and you're like, oh, James Van Der Beek's like in a TV show. I never would have guessed he was playing like a crazy fictionalized version of himself. Like,
Right.
that's pretty fun.
Then he's asking her, hey, did you get your new roommate to move out yet? She's like, no, I give it like 3 days. Like, you're such a con artist. And that's when you get the exposition where, like, in the conversation, it naturally comes up, like, really? How, like, you try to get all these new roommates, and then once you collect their money, you drive them out of the house. So now we know what, like, her gig is. These girls come in, or guys, whoever, pays first, last, and security, and then she gets them to, like, basically bail out after a few days, and then there she is with, like, some bonus cash.
Not some bonus cash too. Like if you're thinking of the apartment's like $2,000 a month at that point, even, right? Like somebody leaves in 2 days and you made $6,000. That's a pretty decent week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because even if that is half, and we find out later that it's not, but you're covering yourself for over a month, even if you have no money of your own. You know what I mean? Figuring that if it was half, that'll get you through a month and a half by paying first, last, and security.
Yeah, but if you do that every couple of days, you're set.
Well, yeah, if you're going through people like at the rate that she's typically getting through them, like we're seeing June is like a tougher one to crack, and she still thinks she won't be there for more than a week.
Yeah, she'd have like a money market account. She should be doing good.
And she's saying that like basically what she's doing is humanitarian work, basically showing all these girls like what New York really is, and kind of spitting them out early. And then he's like, you think that maybe this is why I don't have any female friends? She's like, whatever, I don't want any. Girls are too mean.
I got the Dawson's Creek song stuck in my head now.
I don't want to wait.
So, well, that's not the only Van Der Beek past catalog reference we get in this phone call.
Right?
Because as they continue to talk, you now see the girl walk out again, and she's doing the Varsity Blues and or Ferg style.
I was going to say, my notes just say Ferg.
Feeling my moves.
This was talked about before, but I feel like realistically it's probably been 2+ years since we brought it up. So for those of you who don't know, Ferg has done the Varsity Blues, although instead of whipped cream, I believe it was a shaving cream.
Yeah, I think so, right?
Way less sexier.
Yeah, especially when it's just you and your few buddies who are sharing a hotel room. Yeah, also, you weren't on a fucking date. But the best part of it, Ferg was very intoxicated at the time. But the best part was he drew an F on his chest like he was Superman, but did it in the mirror, so it was backwards when he came out.
Like you're in an ambulance. You're like, people are only going to see this from the rear view mirror and know what the words say.
Oh, and one other thing too, during that phone call was also, she brings up the fact that June's fiance is always talking to this 13-year-old boy or whatever, and she doesn't want to get into...
Hi,
oh,
boys.
No. Oh, hello, Casper.
I have some issues with this episode. You're not a villain if you're just hanging out with 13-year-old boys all day. Berg, do you have any pictures of when you were wearing that bikini? How old were you?
Sorry, Casper. I was an adult.
There is a picture of Ferg in the F, I think.
Oh, it sounds like he was too old for me. I don't think I need that.
If you're not a villain, what exactly are you? Just a smooth criminal?
Well, I did shave my head into an Andy Mohawk once.
All right, well, it's always fun to catch up, Casper, but we have a lot more episode to cover.
Do you think we'll see that boy again? Maybe having some beer? Oh my God, I looked ahead. That boy gets drunk. I'm going to see you all in a few minutes.
It was not Jesus juice, if you were wondering.
I didn't realize that I could just offer them beer. I went through way too much empty cans of Pepsi. I could have just given them beer the whole time.
I thought you gave them ketamine.
Well, that wasn't in a can.
All
bye,
right,
boys.
All right, bye. Oh, wow. All right, well, so now we see June, and she's starting to look for a job, and she's talking to stuff. He's like, job's yours. She's gonna go take it. She's like talking about, I've got a great resume and everything. And she walks into this place. The girl at like reception's like, lady, we're not hiring. I told you 1,000,000 times. By the way, the girl at reception is the creator of the show. So the woman that she's talking to is the woman who created the show. June doesn't want to take no for an answer. She wants to try to talk to the boss of whatever company this is directly. So she just like does a mad dash past the desk. And then that girl is like, hey, she's like, we have a runner. And then like somehow
we have another runner. Like this happens often there.
Yeah.
Catches up with her and checks her in a fucking next Tuesday. Just drills her.
Bulldozed her, yeah.
This is a tough time for the economy when you have runners going to the CEO's door.
Yeah. And then we cut to nighttime in June's home, and she's just taking a bubble bath and checking her messages. And there's one from Steven, and he's in the office doing some more like Bunsen honeydew stuff with this kid Jeremy, who he's with all the time. It's like, hey, sorry we keep missing each other. Things are crazy with Jeremy. He developed a fear of bicycles, so now I have him in a wind chamber.
This is like a fucking fever dream, like somebody wrote down. Like it's such an odd succession of events.
I've always wanted to go on one of these though, because as much as I'm terrified of heights and falling and dying from them, I've always wanted a parachute. So I kind of always wanted to go into one of these chambers.
Those skydiving things, yeah.
I did once. It was okay.
We're in Orlando.
Yeah.
Just okay? That's the best it was?
Yeah, it wasn't what you thought it was. I was glad I was inside and not doing that on a real plane.
Sure, I believe that.
You guys ever see the video on YouTube where the girl in the wheelchair goes in and her legs are flying all over the place?
Yeah, I have seen that.
I have not. I'd like to say when this becomes a clip that no, I have not seen that, and no, I will not
I
laugh
have
at
not
that.
seen that either.
I bet you will.
Yeah, I've definitely seen it. You know, you remember? This kind of reminds me of. Remember when the malls had like, step in this chamber, it's hurricane-like winds.
Oh my god! Those
Yeah.
things.
You'd pay like $3, and then it would just blow like wind at you for a minute, and and like that's it. That's all that happened. And then you get out after like 30 seconds. You went, "What the fuck did I just pay for?"
I feel like the succession of that is like vibrating chairs at the mall, then wind chamber, and now it's eyebrow threading. Like $3, we do something really weird and quick to you.
There's at least a benefit to the vibrating chairs.
In the eyebrow threading.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it combs your hair cool.
Maybe.
I was in one once. I did not. Well, maybe I had my hat on. Who knows? But yeah, I did not walk out with that experience. She's sitting there looking at her messages, and she's in the bubble bath, and Chloe walks in and just like she sits next to her. She's like sitting on the toilet. She's not using the toilet, but she's sitting on it.
That would have been a way funnier scene if she just walked in and started taking a shit.
That I feel actually, as much as I'm the last person to ever like lean into that type of humor, that makes sense for her character.
She also pulled out a sponge-looking thing, and I thought it was going to be a joke of like the sponge contraception method. Like she was going to like put it inside of her. And I was like, why are we missing all these possible weird moments?
When she first sits down, she's like, "Hey, I kind of want to be alone for a minute." Chloe's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Were you masturbating?" She's like, "What? No."
Saying masturbating too is weirder than if he was like, "What are you jerking off?" You'd be like, "No." It's like, you masturbating? Like, that sounds clinical. This seems weirder for some reason.
She's like, "Don't worry." She's like, "I have a long-standing sexual history with that tub." Listen, regardless of what happens, like, I guess you can only assume that, yeah, I guess the probability of that happening was high, but you don't want to hear it while you're in the tub. You know what I mean? That's a bit much.
That's the point, though. She's trying to get rid of her and make her uncomfortable.
Yeah, what would have made her really uncomfortable is if she took a big poo-poo stinky.
Exactly.
Just dropping logs.
Okay.
I don't love where this went.
You had Jay on. We had Jay on board, and you drove him away again.
Went too far. So what was it that she bought herself that she's showing her? She's like, "Oh, do you like it?"
Bag.
It was a bag. It was a purse.
An Alexander McQueen purse, and those go from like $200 to like $1,000.
She shows her, she's like, "Oh, I bought it with the extra rent money you gave me." It's like, extra rent money? It's like, yeah, duh. The real rent was way lower than what I told you, so I used the extra money and I bought a purse. It's like, wait, so you stole from me? So that's an ugly word, but yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Sue me. I guess, like, I mean, good news is you just found out your rent is lower than what you thought it was, right?
One win.
But yeah, no, I'd be, oh man, if someone like, not only did she do it, but the way she approached it and to just basically be like, "Oh yeah, I stole from you. Do something."
I think it was a little early for her to like pull the veil away. She should have tried a few more things and failed to get rid of her before she was
Because
just like,
this feels more desperate. Like she's like trying to kick it up hard now. Yeah. Now we cut to a little bit later and you see Chloe and Van Der Beek walking down the street together. He's like telling her, just like, "Don't you feel bad doing this kind of stuff?" She's like, "No, like no one helped me out when I first moved to New York." And she'll be happier when she goes back to Ohio, wherever she's from. He goes, "I remember when you first moved here, you told me your name was Simone and you sold me a condo." She's like, "Oh," like it was like this beautiful memory. Like, and then the owners came back from vacation.
Can you imagine coming home from vacation and just having you
James Van Der Beek living in your house?
I mean, that's way better than just like, I don't know. So we always talk about the weird things that get like stuck to our algorithm. I keep getting videos now that are like companies in California who are like, "We go into houses where people have broken in and now they're squatting and we kick them out." And like,
I've
I don't
seen
know.
those, yeah.
It's like you end up in a loop watching them and you're like, imagine if you did that. You were like, "This person's staying in my house, get him out of here." And it was Dawson. You'd be like, "Oh shit, the guy from Angus is here?" Never mind. I'm pretty stoked on this. Let's
No
talk
one
for a
thinks
while.
of him as the guy from Angus.
He's the guy from Angus.
I saw him in Angus first, in all fairness, but he'll always be the Dawson.
Yeah, I think he's always Dawson first, and then Varsity Blues, and then Jay and Silent Bob.
I
Strike
don't
Back.
want your life.
Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back comes up first. I would say I think Varsity Blues also before I think of Dawson.
Varsity Blues is number 2.
I mean, you just haven't seen Dawson's Creek, right?
Yeah, I've never seen Dawson's Creek before. So to me, he's Angus, Varsity Blues, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and then
Dawson's Creek was our OC before we had the OC.
Yeah, it's funny too because I was talking about this with my girlfriend. I was like, I've never seen Dawson's Creek. I liked the OC. I was like, I should watch it, and she's seen Dawson's Creek, and she's like, like you don't need to see it. Like it's not that good.
You don't need to go back in time and watch this 90s teen drama.
You see the two of them now walking into Chloe's apartment. He's like, oh, it worked. All her stuff's gone. She's like, no, all my stuff is gone. Where the hell's my furniture? And then you see June walk out. She's like, I sold it. Since you stole money from me, I thought you owed me. So sue me. Gets it back.
See,
with
this
that
was
one.
a swerve. This was a nice swerve. I didn't expect this turn. I didn't think she had it in her. It was cool to see. And I feel like a lot of other sitcoms would have gone like a different, easier route than this. And I was happy to see that this one took a surprising turn.
Yeah, and at first she's kind of like, whatever. Most of it was junk anyway. Like she's trying to like not play it off that she just has been bested by this girl. And she's like, wait, and who bought it? And we find out that like the girl from down the hall, who's like the one who warned June about her earlier, is the one who bought all the stuff. And it was kind of a weird scene because you get a cut to her like in a room. She's like, hello, Mom, I can't talk right now. I'm hanging with all of Chloe's stuff. Ha 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 ha. And I'm like,
that was strange to me because I mean you're gonna find out later their actual relationship, but it's like, is she legitimately obsessed with her or did she wrong her? Like,
even if she like wronged her and she hated her or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you wouldn't want all her stuff.
Yeah, one could have led to the other too. Like both could be true, I guess, right?
So we cut back to the apartment and Chloe's not there. So now we just have June alone with James Van Der Beek. So it's like a little awkward at first. And she's like, it's so nice to meet you. I was a huge Dawson's Creek fan. He's like, oh, thanks. And then she starts singing I don't want to wait. He's like, yep, that's the song.
It must be tough for him. Like he must get that from like people of a certain age every fucking day.
I say that's probably the closest thing to reality in this entire show.
Yeah, the most realistic thing that happens here. And then Chloe runs in and she goes, you sold my bedroom furniture too? She's like, yeah, like you said, all the stuff in the living room was junk. And then she says, that ottoman was in my family for generations. My mother gave it to me when my Nana died. I was 9 years old. It's the only thing I have that I own that I actually even cared about. Kind of, listen, I know we pass things down from like, you know, family members when they pass sometimes, but who gives a 9-year-old an ottoman?
I was thinking the same thing. Maybe if it comes with a chair.
Hey, Nana really wanted you to have something. Here's where she puts her feet when she sits down.
I think about it all the time because we have an ottoman downstairs and there's the Seinfeld joke where he's like, Ottoman Empire? It's an entire empire, but put your feet up. So if anybody says ottoman, my brain immediately thinks that.
We always called it the hassock. True New England.
The hassock.
Hassock.
I never
the
heard
true
that.
New England. Yeah, that's a
I
New
never
England
heard that
thing.
either, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that one. I like that.
Or my family.
Yeah,
thing.
I think it's funny that like just the idea of I bequeath my ottoman to my granddaughter Chloe.
We watched Waiting for Guffman the other day. So usually like my Sunday morning is like I'll get up with my daughter and we'll like super early, I'll let Kelsey sleep in. We'll like watch a movie and I'll like give her breakfast or whatever. So I try to put something on in the background that's like kind of funny. And I put Waiting for Guffman on. And I've seen this movie a million times in my entire life. And they like one of the things is they make ottomans, like that's this town, but they call them stools. And there's a joke where it's like, we're the stool capital of the United States. And I've been watching this movie for like 30 years. And I was like, that's a poop joke. And I never realized that's a poop joke. And I was like, I can't believe it took until I was with a baby to be like, oh, that means poop. Okay, here we are.
That's one thing I learned about you from doing this show is that you love Waiting for Guffman.
It has been brought up numerous times. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite and most watched movies of all time. That's why it was even more shocking to me that I was like, how did I miss this very obvious joke?
Sure I've ever seen it, honestly.
I didn't even know what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, that goes without saying.
Gorda, you're a Spinal Tap fan. This is Christopher Guest's first movie after Spinal Tap that he wrote and directed.
Okay.
Well, he didn't write and direct Spinal Tap, but you understand. It's like
that is
comedy.
right. The one link you have is one of the few movies I know Gordo has seen is Spinal Tap.
Right.
So,
and the sequel to Spinal Tap would be out soon.
Oh, I heard that. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot they made like a legit sequel.
Yeah, I think it's out in the next few months.
It's not going to be good.
I'm very afraid about it, to be honest with you.
Is what are they like returning cast members or?
Yeah, everybody who's alive is coming back. So unfortunately, we won't get like Fred Willard, but I think the premise is that their manager in the first movie, who is like beats everything with the stick, he's dead, and he has a contract that says they have to reunite for one more show, and his daughter finds it. I think that's like the conceit.
Is this like a direct-to-streamer?
I don't think it's announced anywhere, but I would be surprised if it wasn't Netflix, because I think Mascots was direct to Netflix.
Okay.
And that was the last Chris Guest movie before this.
Well, we'll have to wait.
Watch along.
So now that June realized that, one thing at least that she sold actually has some meaning to Chloe, she's too nice, so she feels guilty about it.
Oh, that's a victory. She shouldn't feel bad.
Yeah.
No, and we see like the fight in her is good to see, like, because you felt like Chloe needed someone to stand up to her for once, but she does feel bad about the family heirloom thing. And June, because she's like sympathetic, going like, I'm sorry, I'm not good at counterpunching. I brought a gun to a knife fight. And James Van Der Beek's like, I did that once. I was arm wrestling Kevin Sorbo in a Canadian production of, and she goes, James, not now.
How badly do you want to see?
I wanted to,
right? Shut up and take my money.
I know. For all the
Seriously.
cutscenes we got, we couldn't get him in Kevin Sorbo arm wrestling.
I like to think it's a Canadian version of a remake of Over the Top. But what's Xena up to these days?
She married Ron Swanson.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, they had a baby.
She was also on Ash vs. the Evil Dead, and she was awesome in it.
I still
still
never
haven't
saw
seen
that
that.
show either. I wanted to, and I just never got around to it.
It was one of those shows that was on Stars, and nobody had Stars, and then it got put on Netflix. I was really, really hoping it would take off on Netflix, like Cobra Kai and so many other things did, and it just didn't. I'm like, damn it!
It's timing too, you know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna acquire something like that, like try to release it when it's near Halloween, pump some extra, behind
excellent.
it.
If you're a fan of Evil Dead, it's an excellent show.
Now we're cutting to the two girls down the hall. They're going to the apartment where that girl lives. Robin's her name, and they're gonna try to get this ottoman back. And come to find out that ottoman she like sold to someone else. She said the fabric was a little drab.
Who buys a used ottoman?
It's been double sold. Two people have bought the same used ottoman in the same few hours, apparently.
But at least Robin buys it to like get back at Chloe.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to be like, I've got an old ottoman on Craigslist and someone's like, I'd pay $20 for that. Like, that just feels very strange to me.
But they play the Xbox on it.
Yeah. So now we're at the house of the newest owner of the ottoman. Yeah. And there's like this woman, and she's like, oh, my kids like to sit on it while they're playing Xbox.
Playing the Xbox. She's like, her phone rings and she walks off. Chloe's like, oh, this is where we've been going wrong. We've been dealing with the woman of the family. And she's like, what? And then you see like this older guy sleeping in a chair. And she like walks up to like kind of go to the head of the household, to override this woman who doesn't want to sell the ottoman back.
Does this guy have a Band-Aid on his eyeball? Like, I couldn't
Yeah, he does. He's got some kind.
It's like right in between his nose and his eye.
It's like, hey, Papa, look who wandered into your frosty forest, ready to whisper wicked promises. I don't know what all this means. But she's flirting with him, and the woman walks back in. She's like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm going over your head, and I'm going to go to the real patriarch of the family. It's like, he's our neighbor. He just comes over here to watch the Weather Channel. And you see him in whatever language he was speaking. They had the caption under. He's going, who is this prostitute?
I love a man, though, who just comes over to watch the Weather Channel.
That's one thing about sitcoms, isn't it? Intrusive neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's across the board. Like I can't think of many sitcoms that don't have just the neighbor who just shows up all the time.
The classic, like, hi, neighbor, opens the door.
Yeah, right. The Gibblers and the Urkels of the world.
I honestly feel like texting has eliminated that, because you're like, hey, what are you up to? Or can I come over real quick? Like, people, I think, know how to do that now,
Oh, and what's his name with from Clarissa Explains It All? Always used a ladder to get into the house through the window.
Sam, yeah.
Sam.
That is kid stuff, though. That's different because it's kid stuff.
And Kramer, the obvious one.
Oh yeah, Kramer.
We haven't done Clarissa yet. We've talked about it. We never pulled the trigger on it.
I feel like because we all loved it so much as kids, and we know that it's going to be a tough watch as almost 40-year-olds.
One thing here that I thought was interesting is, so the woman's trying to kick the two girls out after Chloe's tried flirting with the neighbor who's watching TV. And you see like them almost turn into a team for the first time. So now June's like basically talking about how Chloe's so screwed up, but like, you know, like you can't take this one thing away from her that like connects it to humanity. And she goes, if you do, then this crazy bitch might burn the place to the ground. And then Chloe goes, I like to watch the flames from across the street. It reminds me of Christmas. But you're seeing them like team up now. So like they're becoming friends, you know, in a way.
Yeah, you see where like the arc of this show is actually going at this moment.
And now you have like the shot of them walking back into the apartment while, well, it's not even helping her. June's just holding it alone. Imagine walking an ottoman like from, you know, place to place. I mean, I'm under the assumption, well, because you can throw it in a cab if they're taking a cab around, but.
Probably the train though.
So they walk into the apartment. James Van Der Beek is just hanging out inside as you would expect him to. When they walk in, it's like, oh, you got it back. That's awesome. And Chloe's like, June did. She was kind of a genius. Like, hey, and you got all my stuff back. How'd you do that? And he's like, I negotiated. And then you cut to when he went to the apartment down the hall and he's like just knocking on the door and holding his flannel up.
I think his quote is, hey, lovely eyes. How come you got such lovely eyes?
Such a great line. Like, I want to use that so bad because of the absurdity of it. And Chloe's like, you know, I really want to thank you for all you did. Like, I do appreciate this. And then as soon as she says that, like pulls a knife out and flips the ottoman over and just cuts it open and pulls out this giant bag of pills. It's like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, oh, Van Der Beek's like, I loaned her $1,000 to buy those. Yeah, they're Chinese energy tablets. They make you extremely focused and super slutty.
I call bullshit on that. As somebody who's taken a lot of speed in his days, it completely eliminates the ability to do or think of anything sexual.
Yeah, but these ones are different.
Maybe these ones are different. I've tried a lot of different variations in my time. Years ago. Caveat.
You know what's funny is if it was just about the pills, she didn't need the ottoman. She could have been in that apartment, flipped it over, cut it open, and taken the pills, and then they left.
Sure. But, you know, for the reveal and everything and story purposes. When she sees that, she's like, wait, so what about that whole story with your great-grandmother and all that? Was that a lie? It's like, no, that was true. You can love grandma's ottoman and still want to make money on pills.
Yeah, you just sew the bottom back up.
And she's like, and I sell these and I give the money to charity, by the way. Like, no, I don't. June's like pretty upset about this. She feels like, it's weird. Of all the things, she just seems upset that she's an accomplished to like drug activity. Like, that's the thing that's bothering her the most about it all. She goes to leave, but as soon as she opens the door, her boyfriend Steven's there with that kid, Jeremy. And he's like, Junebug. And he's, you know, we kept missing each other. So I figured, you know, your birthday's coming up. I thought I'd surprise you. And that kid, Jeremy, who's there with him, goes, can I have a snack? And he goes, breakthrough. And then he tells the other girl who we don't see at the time, he tells her, hey, make a note of that in Jeremy's cravings journal. She's like, who? And it's like, oh, this is Nicole. She's Jeremy's traveling nurse. She's here to monitor him when I can't so that, you know, you and I can have some alone time.
My cravings journal is just 10,000 pages that say cheese it over and over again with tears just dripping down the pages.
Now, I was wondering, it's not addressed here. Is she an actual nurse or is that just the excuse to bring her along?
Good question. I didn't think about it, but it could be that, I guess, yeah.
I don't think so, only for the one reason that every time they've showed the lab, she hasn't been there.
Yeah, she's not in that scene, yeah. It's just him and Jeremy.
And she just, something about her overall vibe just didn't feel very, this girl must be in the medical field.
Clearly, I remember nursing for the boy. That's a Jeremy Pearl Jam reference, sorry.
I thought you were doing Sling Blade.
You got them French fried nurses?
Yeah. And yeah, so we see this girl. He's like, oh, he talks about you all the time, talking to June. I'm just happy to be part of this important work. And then she mentions, like, I use my miles to come here. Like, okay. Like, she, like, brings it up, like, I guess almost so he hears it. And I don't know, like, what perspective. It was just such a weird thing for her to bring up.
That's just another red flag, though, that she's paying
she
for
went
her
above
own
and beyond.
flight.
Yeah.
But I can also see if they were like, she cares so much about the work that she's paying for her own travel here, you know, using her own miles to follow Jeremy. Like, at least you have plausible deniability.
So as everyone's like kind of getting acclimated to who each other are, June goes, oh, and how rude of me. How can I forget, everyone? This is Chloe. She's the bitch in apartment 23. And then Chloe goes, anyone want to get weird and play Mario Kart while she's holding the pills? I'll say out of this whole episode,
Yes.
but with all the extreme and kind of like unrealistic things that have happened, that like duo dialogue, I think mostly because of the way she said the title of the show for the second time. Because we already heard someone say she's the bitch in apartment 23. To say it twice and the way she introduced her like ladies and gentlemen, like it just felt so unnatural and it like took me out of it for a second.
I liked the show a lot. And I feel like that's cheap. It's cheap. Don't ever say the name of the show in the show. That's an unnecessary cheap gimmick.
The one up front I thought was fine because the first time it was done with the girl down the hall, it was almost to tell you, hey, there's more going on than you realize. Like it was like a clue. You know what I mean? And now the second time it's just more like, get it? It's just like the show name.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Now, though, in my brain, I'm thinking of an episode of Hey Dude, where the first episode and the pilot runs like, hey dude. Everyone just says that as they walk in, and I want that to be the pilot.
Hey, dude.
Hi, Mr. Ernst. Oh, hey dude. It's like, okay, guys, let's cool.
Check out our Hey Dude episode.
Yeah, go back and listen to that one. We cut to a little later now. Chloe walks in and Jeremy's sitting alone, like just playing video games in this apartment. And she's like, hey, where's everyone? Oh, June's at work and Dr. Clayton and Nurse Nicole are in a meeting. She's like, those two have a lot of meetings, don't they? And she's like, starts thinking and then looks at Jeremy and was like, hey, you know what's fun? Alcohol. And it just cuts to the two of them a little later and he's a few beers deep and she's drinking like...
Casper, put it away. Not right now. We talked about
Casper,
this.
you've already been here.
You can't come back. He's our buddy.
Jeremy is notably drunk, I think, on his what looks like his third beer. But, you know, if you're younger
13?
and you've never drank before, I guess, yeah. Now he's loose-lipped because he's been drinking. So you hear him go, oh, yeah, they're doing it. They've been doing it for so long. And he's also doing Nurse Simone, physical therapist Sheila, and the lady with the limp that sells car insurance. And then he starts puking.
Guess that explains that she is a real nurse, though.
Yeah, he does say she's a nurse here. That's true.
Well, maybe that's all that he knows her as because she comes
That's
around.
true, too.
Be like, oh, this is Nurse.
Yeah, that makes
X.
sense.
Right.
He's a kid. He doesn't know.
Yeah, I think kids like speak the truth, right? Especially drunk. So we know for sure that lady has a limp.
So now we're flashing to a little bit later, and Chloe and Van Der Beek walk into a coffee shop. It turns out it's the one that June was visiting, like in the beginning of the episode, where she was parked out front. And now we know that June works there.
Yeah, I think a good amount of this episode was left on the cutting room floor because she suddenly has a job there and a lot of stuff that makes big jumps.
No, I think it's okay because you get the Eric Andre exposition where he's like, I just fired somebody who didn't deserve it to hire my friend.
I like that they're already friends. They talked for 10 minutes when they worked together in that finance job or whatever. And, you know, it's my old friend, June.
That does feel very much, though, like, especially at this point, like shorting stocks and all this different stuff. Like, you get your first tech job in New York City and the whole company blows up because, like, that just it feels very real of this time.
This is when Chloe takes an opportunity to be, like, honest with June. And she's telling her, hey, Steven's sleeping with Nurse Nicole. And she's like, why would I believe anything you say? She's like, it's true. Jeremy told me. She's like, I love Steven. Why would he ever cheat on me? And she's telling her, like, you're too trusting. She's like, yeah, I trusted you. Look where that got me. She's like, you know what? Fine. I tried. And Chloe leaves. This is James Van Der Beek has this moment to talk to her now. And he's like, hey, you know what? Like, I know you're upset, but Chloe's actually trying to do the right thing here. She may have the morals of a pirate, but she would do anything for her friends. And starts talking about like this big birthday party that she threw for him once and like flew all these family and friends out. It was great, but she ended up making him pay for it. But then, you know, he's got more money. So I guess, I mean, it might be all right.
I like the term morals of a pirate.
Yeah, I enjoy that.
I liked, he doesn't get quite into all of the specifics, but something about like, I don't know if it was the way all this shit was paid for with his cards, but all he does is warn her, don't be a blonde dude in a Vietnamese jail.
I love the guy was like, ID captain now. That's his morals of a pirate.
And now we cut to Chloe walking into her apartment, and Steven is on the couch. And this is when we're back full circle to the beginning of the episode.
I love so much here that they fast forward through the scene so that it makes you watch the exact same scene again.
Yeah.
That is a fucking great idea.
Yeah, certainly good for time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have done the whole she opens up and then they repeat the first lines we heard to start and then just fade to black and then like commercial break.
Yeah, this is just like an alternate route to the same thing, right? Like
yeah, no, I think this works fine, and the fast forwarding does help.
But you know what else would have worked? If they just didn't show it at the beginning, and then they could have showed the scene normal.
No, but
I don't know. I think as you go through it, it makes sense.
That leaves out an element.
With the first time you watch it, you go, as the show calls her, it's like, who is this bitch? Why is she so cold-hearted? Why is she fucking her roommate's, like, fiance for no reason?
But you don't need that. You get that throughout the episode that she's a bitch.
I don't know. I think this starts the evil stakes where it starts with, like, it cuts to the title by her being like, I fucked your fiance on your birthday. Like, that,
yeah,
that
like,
really
that was
raises
a good, like,
it.
strong, it was a strong way to show you her being terrible, and then the way that this all comes full circle, I thought was done pretty well for this episode.
It makes her redemption more meaningful. Because you get to see it from both perspectives. You get to see it from the perspective of somebody who doesn't know what happened, and then you get to see what happened that led to it. And it's like, oh, okay, so, I mean, she's a bitch, but, you know, she's, you know, not the worst person in the world. So, I don't know. I think it does a good job of explaining things the right way.
So they, you know, as mentioned again, they fast forward through all the stuff we've already seen, which is great. Because if you remember, this was all halted by when June walks in and screams. So June's now in the room now that we fast forwarded. He's trying to say, no, she just seduced me. That's when you're hearing, yeah, to prove that you're a cheater. And during this, and they're already arguing now, Nurse Nicole walks in. She goes, what the hell is going on? I knew you were cheating on her with me, but now you're cheating on me with her?
I love the line, I thought I was your only mistress, you son of a bitch. That is the most perfect fucking way to describe what's happening here.
You know what the thing is, like, he's cheating on her. Why even come visit? He has his perfect out, he's there, she's another state away. This is just asking to get caught.
Yeah, there's like a time frame thing he has where he could just be like, I'll see you in 2 weeks, I love you, honey bunny, but he shows up and fucks himself over.
Not that I'm saying he should cheat, I'm just saying
oh, yeah, you know, he's a bad dude. He's doing the wrong thing. But I guess, I don't know, I feel like some people who do...
Real rookie move.
Ferg, who's been cheating for years, is like, I wouldn't have done that shit. Rookie.
I like when all this reveal's happening too, and Chloe's like, oh, tell about the girl that sells car insurance. And the nurse is like, my sister? So it's all coming full circle there.
This would have also been good, like in Home Alone 2, when he's going through the name of people that he's sleeping with, and he's like, Bob with the gimpy leg. I feel like her sister is Bob with the gimpy leg.
So yeah, now that Nicole knows that not only is he cheating on his fiance with more than just her, but the fact that one of them is her sister, she throws a lamp at his head. He ducks. June leaves, and the next scene we see her in a bar, and Chloe followed her there. And she's saying, hey, listen, I know that the only way you would have believed that Steven was a bad dude is if you literally walked in on him in the worst possible scenario, having sex with your roommate on your birthday cake. And she's going, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me. How sad is that? She's like, it's pretty sad.
I do like her realism here. Also, she tries to console her and just gives her the funniest, like, I don't know how to be a human pat on her arm, which is a great visual gag.
And she's trying to look at it like glass half full, because now she's realizing, you know what? Like, had you not done what you did, I probably would have never saw it coming. And, you know, I would have found out in 10 more years and I'd be divorced with 2 kids. Thank you. You saved me from wasting the best years of my life. And Chloe's like, yeah, well, you know, it came at a price. I got a lot of frosting in my crack. And I was like, well.
Now, are we to believe that they actually had sex? Because she says it like they did, but we see the whole thing, and she's just on the cake.
It gets cut off before anything, I think, from that
angle.
You saw
the whole thing in the opening. She just seduces them, she puts them down on the cake, and then she comes in and walks in.
She did have her pants on when she sat on the cake. But, yeah, I guess so they didn't quite get there yet. But, like, was she willing to go that far? Like, what if June didn't go home?
Yeah, that's a question. That's a very good friend.
I was thinking the same thing with the ottoman. Like, would she have fucked that old dude to get the ottoman back?
She's like,
after she brings up the frosting in her butt, she's like, sorry, I don't know why I brought that up. I think genuine emotion just makes me feel uncomfortable at times. And then orders a couple of kamikaze shots from the bartender, which I'd be shocked if anyone like over 22 orders those.
Yeah, that seems like one of those weird things where like you hit a certain age and you only order a shot that is like straight alcohol. You know what I mean? You're like, can I have a shot? They're like, oh yeah, do you want like bourbon? Like, oh no, I want a kamikaze. They'd be like, get the fuck out of here. What are you doing?
They're young girls. That's what girls order.
They're 26 though.
No, 26 is young. I mean, we were 26 13 years ago. Like,
yeah, but when were we done with our kamikaze shots? Because I feel like we probably just drank them for like the first couple years.
I drank them in Canada, and that was it. I don't think I ever had a kamikaze shot after that.
I think somebody gave me one or two times. I never ordered one. Yeah,
they're not good.
No, it's vodka and lime juice, right?
It's
triple sec.
No, yeah, triple sec vodka and Martha sweet lime juice or fresh lime juice, maybe. Regardless,
it's lime juice.
Needs a better name. That makes it sound very strong, and it's not. Kamikaze, this will kill you. No,
I feel like it's one of those things too, though, where like they frown on you, and for obvious reasons, saying Irish car bomb. Like they probably should frown on you for saying kamikaze as well. You know what I mean? Like these are things they probably should just rename.
I'm sure if you go to Japan and order it, they won't like it.
I certainly have been at a bar where people in Boston, at a very Irish bar that we know, ordered an Irish car bomb, and the bartender was not having it, and I was trying to give him the Iggy to be like, just call it fucking anything else right now, and it just got very weird.
We talked about this before. That means what? You stuck your finger in their butt?
Yeah. I was like, hey, bud. This is also a friend that we affectionately called Stupid, so it was not easy to get his attention and tell him to call it something else. I forget there's like another term you use for it that's not Irish car bomb. That's just
call
like
it car bomb.
Just a car bomb, yeah. Where you're not like recalling people getting murdered in the streets. It's like, isn't that funny?
Isn't that a Boilermaker? Or is that only with vodka?
Boilermaker is beer and whiskey. I think a car bomb is specifically Guinness and
Bailey's.
Right.
Bailey's.
That's why it's an Irish car bomb.
So they take the shots and then like, all right, let's get out of here. And while they're walking away, June's asking Chloe, hey, did we pay for those shots? She's like, no, hard times, keep walking. And they head out. And then they just start talking about, hey, did James actually shoot an energy drink commercial in Vietnam? She's like, oh yeah, it's really good. And then we get to actually see the commercial.
It was amazing.
This is a great button on the episode. I'm so glad they did this. Dawson in the moon.
It was funny. It was like, do you remember there used to be a website called, I don't know if it's still around. It was called Japander.
With the Arnold Schwarzenegger ones?
It had all of them because it was a ton of like celebrity. This was like, because they were recording all these weird commercials overseas before the internet was like really a thing. So they never thought we'd see them. So there's all these bizarre, like out of country commercials with like, A-list celebrities and shit.
To be fair, I'm sure there's tons of them that we actually haven't seen. So.
Oh, sure, yeah. But it's funny because it doesn't need to exist now because celebrities will just endorse anything. Like, if you see the one where Sylvester Stallone is like drinking celery juice and he's like, hey, celery's been around since I don't know when. It's like, what are you doing? You don't know when celery's been around since? Like, how much more money do you need, Sly? What the fuck?
I'll say for like a show as bizarre as this one can be, kind of a fitting ending.
No, this is a perfect ending.
But yeah, that was like I said, that was the close of the episode too. So that's how it all ended off. So yeah, I don't know. I was looking up. I think we kind of went over everything that was important and worth mentioning. It was, I find it weird that like this is another show that like when a studio like develops a whole show and like puts all this energy in it, and then like on the 0 hour they go, you know what, nah, and then another channel can just scoop it up and be like, you know what, we'll do it.
I will say, though, this is like a weird crossing point, too, because like this gets canceled in the second season, and there were 8 unaired episodes. And previously in the universe, that would be like, they're going to play them over the summer randomly, maybe even all in one day, right? Like, they're just going to burn them off or whatever. And this is the first one that was like, they're all going to end up on like fucking Hulu or whatever. Like, we've hit that point where like, you also have a contract with the streamer, and we'll just put them there and move on. That's kind of like a weird delineation point.
Well, it's weird. It's these shows too that like nowadays I feel like they just ride them out for the most part. They order the show because everything's going to streamer directly now, so you already have all the stuff.
Everything's next day on the streamer, if nothing else. Yeah.
But this show too in particular, I know they said one of the things was the ratings is basically what contributed to the fact that
the show went away. But it's also a show that it seems like anyone who saw it really liked it, but they could never quite get the numbers to match, like the viewership. So that's ultimately why it never like climbed the rankings, is that a lot of people just weren't watching it and they didn't think to watch it.
Should have like moved it in front of a popular show or something.
Yeah.
Just make sure somebody sees it.
So that seems to be like the major part of like what caused the downfall of the show after 2 seasons. It wasn't so much about content, and it was more about like a lack of being able to identify how to find its audience.
This feels like the kind of show now that would be on Max or Prime or something and would have gone more, because it would have given it the time to find the people. But this is again like the weird point where like it might not work on TV, and they just don't know that things can exist and be successful outside of that.
Kind of hard to market a show too when you have the word bitch in the title. You can't even say it.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, how do you advertise that?
This does feel now, though, like a show you could bring back, because there's like the 90s nostalgia, and with the Marvel Universe stuff where you're like, things have, like, I think over time, I would love to see the show like this be like, Hulu's doing a 3rd season.
I guess you never really do know, but it's just, I don't know. I just feel like the show could have lasted a good amount longer had the right people been able to see it.
Yeah, I've seen way worse shows last way longer.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. With all that in mind, that's still the end of the episode. So we pretty much covered the whole thing. I don't know if you guys have any more tidbits. I read up a little bit. I didn't see a lot of extra info on the show, but yeah. So might as well just get into the green light or cancels. I'll go in wacky fun order. So Ferg, starting with you.
I love this show. Green light from me. I'm gonna continue to watch it. I was really excited when I think Nick said it was on Prime, so I'm gonna probably, when we get off, go do that. I love Krysten Ritter. I love the cast of this show. I love the wackiness. It's stuff's going on. This is one of those like modern style sitcoms. Like, that's the kind of show I watch. I know you guys love the classic stuff. This is right up my alley. And I like the adult humor and stuff too. Just green light.
I'll jump in. Yeah, I was very conflicted the first time I watched it, and I was leaning like aggressively hard no the first time I watched it. And then like rewatching it and thinking about some stuff, I've lightened up on it a bit. Like, and again, like I like how they showed her at her worst and like kind of what built up to it. And then you could see that like, it's not a new concept. It's like, why is the bad one really not so bad? Why is the good one worse than you would think they are sometimes? But yeah, I don't know. I thought they did a good job of like pulling all that stuff together, like later in the episode that I was questioning about for, the whole time. So I'm going to go ahead and also give it the green light. Not my strongest green light, because I don't feel like the general tone and humor of this show is made for me, but I do like it. So I'm going to give it the green light as well. Joe.
I went into this with zero preconceived notions. I knew nothing about this show except that Van Der Beek was in it, and it lived in a world with a show like Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, where it was like a name but a show you never saw. So I like sat down and was like, whatever, it's 21 minutes. And I try not to like message and give doom in the chat where I'm like, oh shit. But I was like, I have 4 pages of notes on a 21-minute show. That's a lot. But they were great 21 minutes. I fucking loved this. I was surprised by how, I guess I don't want to say adult because it's a weird word, but like how crass it was, how funny it was. I'm glad this is streaming as well. I'm definitely going to watch this. I mentioned that this is what we're doing this week. My wife was like, I love that show. Do you want to watch it? I was like, yes, I do. So with that, if I'm watching it, it's a green light.
Gordo.
Yeah, so this is a green light for me too. I didn't know it outside of the name, and I wanted to see it, but not enough to actually go out and seek it. So I'm glad I was made to watch it, because and now that I know it's on Amazon Prime, I will give it a consideration to watch while I stare at the wall at night. Yeah, green light for me. It was funny. It was, it was good. It wasn't what I was expecting, but it was very good. Green light.
Nick.
Yeah, I'm not going to swim against the tide on this one. It was, it's a pretty easy green light. This show it's entertaining. Like Ferg said, I love Krysten Ritter. She's in a few things I've seen. She's fantastic. The rest of the supporting cast is great. It's not, I'm not sure I would call this a sitcom. Not that I'm going to allow that to affect my decision in any way, but I feel like this is definitely more of like an overall storyline driven type of show versus being individual episodes having like their own isolated, storylines. I could be wrong though. So I mean, I'll watch another episode. I'm bummed that it didn't seem to make it very far. It sucks that it seems like it was a product of just like the times and bad network decisions and things like that. But yeah, I mean, this episode was fun. It's interesting. It's got a lot to it and some great storytelling. So I'm happy with it. Easy green light.
So with that in mind, that is actually a perfect 5 out of 5, which I did not necessarily see coming on this one. Again, full disclosure, I kind of went in with some preconceived notions and thought I was going to hate the show. Like I said, not entirely for me, but a lot better than I thought. But yeah, so congratulations to Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23. You do live on for a second episode with us. And I want to thank Christine again for your pick for these extended Fanuary that we're doing with this episode. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the messages that you've sent us over the years. We appreciate you very much. And hope we did your pick well. I want to remind all of you guys, go to S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find all the information to everywhere you can find us. Like I said, buy a shirt, do all the shit, follow us, leave comments and reviews and all the things that help us. Spread the word, let other people know about us. That is, it is very hard to promote. So for us, the more you guys let other people know, if you like what we do and think your friends would like us too, by all means, let them know. And that's it. That's all we have for you. We'll catch you again next week. So thank you. Goodbye.
I think we got the best DM to the show saying that they've got an industrial copier to give me.